make sure you put the Shal Rosh in. The Shal Yad says Shal Yad, make sure to put the Shal Yad in. It's also made a little bit different. The Shal Yad has a cut on the side so that the Kesher should touch the Tefillin. So it's generally easy not to make that mistake, but you have to be careful. Why do you have to be careful? Because the Shal Rosh is holier than the Shal Yad, and because it's holier than the Shal Yad, you can't take the bias of the Shal Rosh and use it for the Shal Yad, or the bias of the Shal Yad and use it for the Shal Rosh. You have to be sure to keep the right one for the right one. Well, I mentioned that also. That's why it's easier not to make a mistake. But assuming that you still make the mistake, make sure to put it to do it appropriate. I mean, sometimes you need to cut out for the Shal Yad, but technically, if you have one that's cut out, you can use it for the Shal Rosh too. It's not a problem. So, assuming that you have two separate ones for the Shal Rosh and for the Shal Yad, doesn't matter if it has the cutout, doesn't have the cutout. Bottom line, since this is being used for the Shal Rosh, it has to continue to be used for the Shal Rosh. And so too for the Shal Yad. So you don't go back and forth between them. Right, but you can't go back and forth. Another thing that's brought down in the minhagim, not so much in the halachas, that you shouldn't take off your talis. You take off your tefillin, you take off your talis, and then people sometimes do that. That instead of wearing the talis, it's a little difficult while you're wearing the talis to roll up the tefillin, and then it falls off your sleeve and whatever. So I've seen people take off the tefillin and then take off their talis, and then they start rolling up the tefillin, and then they roll up their talis. But the proper way is that while you're rolling up the tefillin, you should be still wearing your talis. Then you take off the talis and fold the talis. Now we come to a halacha of if you take off your talis and you take off your tefillin. Let's talk about the tefillin, and then you decide you want to put it back on, or as you're taking them off, you want to put it back on. You have to, whatever it is, somebody calls you outside, you have to move the car. So I've seen people go out in their talis and tefillin and move their car. There's a different halacha, but I'm talking about you just go out to move the car. So generally, the right thing to do is if you're going out to move your car, take off your talis and tefillin, go out and move the car, and come back. But the question becomes: do you make a bracha now when you put it back on? So the halacha is somebody who takes off his tefillin, but he has in mind when he's taking them off, I'm going to put it right back on. What does right back on mean? So right back on means within the next 2-3 hours. That's the expression, the language that's used in Shulchan Aruch for tefillin, that 2-3 hours. Why is that an expression? There's actually a whole letter from the Rebbe, where the Rebbe describes the difference of what's considered a hefsek for what. So for tefillin, longer than 2 or 3 hours, that's already a hefsek. For other things, it doesn't necessarily mean 2 or 3 hours. For Suda, it's different. For brachas, it's different. But for tefillin, it's 2-3 hours. And why is it 2-3 hours? Based on what the davening should take. So 2-3 hours is because, for somebody that's davening longer, it could take him 3 hours to daven. Somebody that's not spending so much time davening, so it should take at least 2 hours. So 2-3 hours is within the framework of what somebody could be davening in. So if you're taking it off and you're going to put it on within those 3 hours, it's like within the time of davening, you're still putting it on, then you don't have to make another bracha. What's that? But again, 3 hours is somebody who davens long, or actually it says, in other places, it actually says, practically speaking, it should take an hour or two davening. That a longer person is 2 hours. Somebody who's doing it quickly, it should take him at least an hour. But over here, it does say the lashon of 3 hours also, so that's really long. Today, it's right. So again, the shortest is shah v'chetzi. Yeah, but again, now it says a shah or 2 hours. So that's what I'm saying. So now it's an hour, the minimum end. Longer, it should be 2 hours. But that lehalacha, what we talk about within the framework of davening, it's 2-3 hours, because that's the lashon that says halacha. And in fact, he comes after within 2-3 hours, and he puts it back. He has a mind, he's going to put it back, and he in fact puts it back. So under those circumstances, then he's not going to have to make another bracha. But this is only providing he hasn't gone to the bathroom in between. But if he went to the bathroom, it's actually, it says it's either one. Yeah. Well, I'll explain to you. In halacha, it does say 2 yes and 1 no, because it says that today, or I guess it's most often, that even for one, a person does a nefiche. He lets out gas, and if he does, that's already necessitates the person to make another bracha.
Really?
Yeah.
Not taking your mind off of it, think about it, try to think about it. That's the thing.
No, so that even for one, you would need to do it if the person lets out gas. So that's why today the acceptable thing is if you go to the bathroom, doesn't matter for what, you have to make a bracha afterwards. What's that? Not a separate bracha. No, what happens now is, so then if you go, you're going to the bathroom, you don't have in mind that you're putting it on without, it's in your mind a hefsek. Because when he's in the bathroom, he can't keep on the tefillin, and as we explained, so the fact that I have in mind, I'm going to put it right back on, if you're in a place where you can't put it back on, so that's why. What's that? So you shouldn't, yeah, because, but even if you do, it doesn't help. Now, but if somebody takes off his tefillin and has a mind, I'll put it on 4 hours from now. So obviously, if he puts it on in 4 hours, he has to make another bracha. But he has a mind to put it in 4 hours, and then I have in mind I'm going to put it on in 4 hours, and then I realize no, I don't have to go. My wife calls me now. Stay home. You can. I'll manage. So you want to put your tefillin on right away, but since when you took it off, you had in mind you're going to put it on in 4 hours from now, then. So when you took it off, you had in mind you're going to need to make a bracha. You are mafsik. So that's why, even though if practically speaking you're ready to put it on in 5 minutes, you still have to make another bracha. Because just by the fact that when you took it off, you had a mind to put it back in a longer span of time that you would be allowed to put it back on without making another bracha. So even though you actually decided earlier to put it on, nevertheless, you are required to make another bracha. And obviously the same halacha would be, whether it's for benching or whether it's for whatever, even though you'll have in mind that, you're going to eat very soon. And then it takes a long time, so you're going to have to make another bracha or whatever. Similarly, so even though you had in mind in a long time, but then you changed your mind. So when you start eating all over again, you have to make another bracha because that was a hefsek. So what you have in mind is what matters in terms of a hefsek. And that's why the halacha is like that with tefillin, or the halacha is like that for anything that you need to have it within a certain framework, whether it's for smelling, make brachas on psamim, and how soon after do you have to make the bracha again? Or again, whatever the question happens to be. So again, if you've thought about this is the only time I'm doing it, finished. Even though 20 minutes later you decide, you know what, I want to smell it again. So you don't say, well, I just smelled, so I had the bracha. That's a different issue. That's another issue. Right. Well, no, again, they didn't know that it lasts, but there's a certain ruling on that, as to if you're doing it immediately or you've given up on this and now you're going on for forgetting about this, and now it's a whole new. Right. Well, okay. So again, there's different halachas there, but I'm saying the point of whatever the halacha happens to be, and I'll show you. Maybe we'll go through the letter from the Rabbi where the Rabbi divides all the different things. The point of it is, again, it depends on what you have in mind, and then again, even though you had it in mind, if you extended that and you changed your mind, it doesn't make a difference. Same thing for the talus, same story. And again, it depends on if you had it in mind.
But if you have in mind, I thought talus don't make another bracha.
If what?
Go to the bathroom.
Well, because the talus is different. Because the talus, technically, you could have it there.